Now, in today's class on how to identify a phrase, quickly let's look at what a phrase entails. Now, we have it as a phrase is a group of words that forms part of a sentence and cannot stand on its own to convey a complete thought. Now, look at these key expressions that it's the meaning of the phrase. The first one is that we have a phrase as a group of words. Now, what it simply means is that in the aspect of seeing a phrase as a group of words, it basically means a single word cannot be said to be a phrase. We need a collection of words. We need a collection of two or more words so as to be able to state that this expression is a phrase. But that is still not enough. There's another thing that actually projects it as a phrase is that it forms part of a sentence. So despite the fact that a phrase is a group of words, a collection of words, it serves as a part of a sentence. And the question is what are the parts of a sentence? Basically, the parts of a sentence are basically two. We have the subject, which happens to be the doer of an action, the person performing the action itself, and the other part of a sentence is the predicate. So in the course of looking at the predicate, we are looking at the verb and the other words that comes after the verbs. So in this class, we're going to be looking basically on the subject and the verb. So the moment you can identify the subject and the verb in a given expression, that will actually aid the teaching of and on how to actually identify a phrase in a given expression. So let's come back to this example, a group of words. Now look at this word, the sun. This is a phrase. Compared to sun, it's shining. Shining. A grandfather. Grandfather. Now, grandfather is a compound word, so we won't see it as a phrase. Basically, we see it as a single word. Now, unlike the sun, it's shining. We have two words fused together to form this expression. Then we have it's shining. A grandfather. Now, let's go back to the other thing that projects the definition of a phrase. It said cannot stand on its own. Now, parts. Let's look at what makes it what makes a phrase not be able to stand on its own. Look at this. The sun. When someone comes to you and says the sun, you will be looking at this person to say something after it because it seems as if the message is not complete. So that's the reason why it states that a phrase, aside the fact that it's a group of words and that it forms part of a sentence, it cannot stand on its own. In other words, it cannot convey complete thoughts. So if I walk up to you and say, out grandfather, I'll be expecting something like I need something to at least some other expression to convey the words so that I can get the general message of what you are trying to say. Now let us go quickly to how to identify a phrase. Now, quickly look at this. A phrase lacks the coexistence of a subject and a predicate. So in this class, we will be looking at the predicate from the angle of the verb. Because aside from the verb that makes up the predicate, we do have the other words that makes up the predicate. Aside from the verb, we have the object, we have the verb, we have the object, we have the complement, and we have the adjunct. But in today's class, we are more concerned with the verb and the subject so as to be able to aid our identifications of a phrase. Now, quickly going back, we said a phrase lacks the coexistence of a subject and a predicate. A phrase lacks the coexistence of a subject and predicate. So it lacks the subject, what it basically means that when a phrase is made up of the subject element, the predicate, which is the verb, will be missing. So when the subject element makes up the phrase, then the verb element, that is the predicate, will be missing. So we cannot have the two coexisting. In other words, when it is made up of the predicate element, the subject will be missing. That is basically it. So let's look at the example that project this. And look at this example. My brother's friend. My brother's friend. Now, in this expression, let's look at the elements that makes up the expression. Do we have the subject and the verb in this expression? My brother's friend. Now, my brother's friend is a subject, meaning something is missing. The verb is missing. We are not getting an action in this expression. When someone makes this expression, my brother's friend, I'm expecting an action. So in this case, the action is missing. The only thing we have here is the subject. The verb is missing. The verb is missing. You can't get a verb. Now look at this. Has been writing. Has been writing. What has been writing? We are not told. It means the doer of this action is missing, but we know that an action has been performed, is ongoing, has been writing. Like it's the state of the thing. It's working. Has been writing. We have the verb. The verb is present, whereas the doer of this action isn't present. That makes this expression a phrase. Now look at another example. Are practicing hard. Are practicing hard. Who are practicing hard? We are not told. Are practicing hard. It means the subject is missing. Only thing we have in this expression is the verb, is a predicate. It's a predicate that I've been practicing hard. Practicing is the verb phrase, whereas hard is the adverb modifying the action. But where is the doer of the action is missing. So this is exactly how to identify a phrase. So I'll go back to the phrase that in a phrase lacks these two elements, the subject and the verb. So the moment we have the subject, the verb will be missing. When we have the verb, the subject will be missing. So as in the case of my brother's friend, this is the subject, the verb is missing. Now in this case, has been writing. We have the verb expressions, but then where is the subject? It's missing. Now, I'm practicing hard. We have the verb element, but then where is the subject? It's missing. So, in other words, the whole summary to identifying a phrase is that you should look out for the subject and the predicate in respect to the verb. So, the moment we have the subject element, the verb will be missing. But the moment we have the verb element, the subject element will be missing. So, let's quickly look at this exercise to evaluate our understanding of the identification of a phrase. Now look at this. Identify the phrase in the following expression. Now look at question number 1. Since he arrived early, can we say this expression is a phrase or a clause? Now, since he arrived early, now we have this expression. Can we tell it to be a phrase or not? Let's check out for the two elements. If we have the two elements coexisting, then it is not a phrase. But when we can have just one of the elements, then it is a phrase. Now, since he arrived, we have he, which is a pronoun that tells us that this is a subject. Then we arrived as a past tense. Past tense verb. So it basically tells us that two elements are present. The subject is present and the verb is present. And what's the subject? The he. And what's the verb? The verb is the arrived. So this expression cannot be said to be a phrase because the two elements are coexisting, which goes against our item that in the phrase, okay, it lacks the coexistence of a subject and predicate. So that brings us back to this again. Look at the question. So we can either say this activity, we could say this is not a phrase. We rather say that this is not a phrase. Now let's look at the next activity in the next exercise. It said with a smile. With a smile. Now we have with a smile. What are the elements that makes up this expression? With a smile. Okay, we have an article a in respect in that's predict that it's pre-modifying the smile. So we do not have a verb. The verb is missing. Well, what we have here is the subject. The verb is missing. So in this case, we can either say that this is a phrase because we have the subject but the verb is missing. Now let's look at this. Wherever they go. Wherever they go. Wherever they go. Wherever it's stating an adverb, stating where. Then you have they, which is the pronoun. To mix it, this makes this um, a subject. Then go is a verb. So in this case now, we have the subject and the verb. So in this case, we can't see this as a phrase because we have the two elements coexisting. So this is not a phrase. So in the comment section, I would like us to quickly do the structural analysis of the last two exercise and tell me if it is a phrase and what makes it a phrase, or if it is not a phrase and what makes it not a phrase based on the structural analysis of subject verb element or subject predicate element. So if the two exist, then it is not a phrase. If just one of them exists, then it is a phrase. So subscriber, please kindly like this video, subscribe to this video, and share for others to actually learn from how to identify a phrase. Thank you and God bless you.